And where did Eventide come from, the name?
Eventide is an actual word, sort of Old Englishy, meaning evening. And Clockworks is just that, a place that makes clocks. A couple of friends and I got together and said, wouldn't it be nice if we had beautiful digital clocks? My job was building the electronics. Somebody else's job was building the case. Everybody chipped in a couple of $100 for the parts. And I would sit there on the night shift and put together these clocks. And I was thinking to myself, if I had a company making these clocks, it would be Eventide Clockworks. So Steve and Orville and I are standing in the vestibule. I actually remember this like I was still there, saying, well, if we're going to have a company, it needs a name. I'm a science fiction fan. I came up with a whole list of names, things with spin dizzy in them, stuff like that. These guys looked, oh, that's a stupid name. Oh, that's a stupid name. And finally, in desperation, I said, why don't we call it Eventide Clockworks? Oh, all right.
Welcome to Gear Club!
In this episode, we present the history of Eventide, makers of revolutionary audio products for over 50 years, as told by founder and owner Richard Factor. Eventide's history stretches back to 1971, but Richard was tinkering with audio electronics well before that, paving the way for some of the first Eventide products. Richard takes John and Stewart through the early history of Eventide, from its founding and naming to its first groundbreaking products. Among them, the first remote tape machine transport control and the first digital audio device, the 1745 digital delay line. And on to the dynamics-defying Omnipressor, the psychedelic instant flanger and phaser, and the advent of the venerated Harmonizer line of pitch shifters. It's a fascinating and fun oral history of a company that continues to define innovation in audio. As always, we encourage you to like, subscribe, share, and leave a comment. When you do, it lets us reach a lot more listeners, and our biggest goal at Gear Club is to share these incredible stories with as many people as possible. Okay, on to our interview with Eventide's Richard Factor.
Oh, we're going to go over the history, the founding of Eventide.
Well, no, even before that, didn't you go to work on the radio?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. While I was going to school, I worked at WABC, the biggest radio station on earth at the time. I got to work with all these guys I heard on the radio when I was a kid, Dan Ingram, Cousin Brucey, and a host of others, Roby Young.
This was Music Top 40.
Music Top 40.
And boy, was it good, too, the music.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it wasn't just pop radio, but it was kind of...
Yeah, well, it was so rigorously selected that anything that ever made it on the radio, with Rick Sklar and his gang picking those songs out, everybody wanted to be a star, and you had maybe 10 songs in heavy rotation and maybe another 10 that got played a couple of times a day. It was quite the Darwinian winnowing of...
what year? I need a year.
I worked there from... I was a vacation relief guy. I think it would have been 64. And I ended there when I graduated from college and needed to get a job working in a defense plant to once again avoid getting drafted, which I succeeded in doing.
Besides, I ain't no fool. I'm a-going to school and I'm a-working in a defense plant. I got a dislocated disc and a...
The beginning of ABC, when you started there, were you an intern, an engineer? You said you were soldering, so did you go in as a technical or a...
Well, they have what they call vacation relief. People go on vacation, so what the union did was they would allow them to hire part-time people for a few months over the summer, and then eventually I ended up with a real job instead of vacation relief.
But then you went to work for Dan Ingram.
Dan, oh, you remember.
One of the famous logos.
Yeah,
of all time.
where the chime time was.
WABC. Dan back again, finally.
What's it all about?
He's Alfie, Dion Warwick, number 14.
Yeah, Dan, to this very day, I still regard as the best DJ ever.
Wow.
What a wonderful sense of humor, what an incredible voice, what a impeccable sense of timing, and pretty interesting when the mic was off, too.
Really?
Yeah. So WABC would pay this company, PAMS, in Texas, big bucks to create jingles. But it was a pretty simple tune. It was da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, you can just as easily create those notes electronically, so that I created the Hern. And the device, the Hern, was a jingle creator. And once you create those notes, you can vary them.
Right.
It was a synthesizer, really,
Right.
but a fixed tune synthesizer where you could add vibrato, you could add tremolo, you could do warping.
So you can modify
You could modify that jingle.
melody.
So it's an 11-note melody where I had inside the device 11 pots where I would adjust the tune so that if you left all the modification down to nothing, it would come out more or less a reasonable pitch, reasonable tempo, and a correct tune. But again, vibrato, tremolo, warping of all sorts, maybe even some distortion. I don't know. A lot of stuff just by turning the front panel. So you press a button, it plays a WABC jingle. And if you turn this knob, it plays it faster. If you turn this knob, it goes down, you know.
That organist strikes again. They're winning!
Nice.
A lot of variation. So you give this to one of the other DJs, he won't turn any of the knobs, he'll press the button. But Dan is musically sophisticated and a little crazy. So he had enormous fun with it. And of course, I loved it.
Is that in some way connected to you starting making Eventide boxes?
Yes, it is, at least in terms of that kind of equipment.
And this is 1969-ish?
Actually, even a little earlier than that. The Hern, I think, was probably 67. But I always liked building stuff. And the inspiration for Eventide, this guy named Steve Katz, he was the chief engineer of a recording studio, Sound Exchange, and he had a very, very tiny control room. And he had an Ampex 16-channel recorder, an MM1000. And when he's sitting at the console, he can't really be a tape op. Right? So he said, I wish I had something where I could just rewind the tape to a particular spot. Not just a remote control, but something I could press a button, send the tape back to the beginning. This was in the days when I think TTL Logic just started coming in. You could go out and buy a chip that did something as opposed to it just was a gate or a single flip-flop. And they had decade counter chips, a 74-193.
Wow.
And a 192. That was a decade. 193 was binary.
Some things you don't forget.
Yeah, that's amazing.
No. And some things you wish you could. Well, in any event, I said, I was working in a defense plant at this time. I can just build one of these things for you using Nixie tubes for a display to show what time it is. And I did, and he took it. He put it on his tape recorder. He loved it. He talked to the Ampex salesman.
So it was an autolocator.
An autolocator, yeah.
So the autolocation didn't exist before this?
To the best of my knowledge, no, it didn't.
Yeah, it's amazing. Search.
Yeah, tape search. We called it the tape search unit. It had a thumb wheel switch on the front. You could dial in the time you wanted. You hit a
so you'd actually
go to the time.
You just dial in with a dial 2 minutes and then hit the button and it would go there.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes, isn't science wonderful?
Yeah.
So I made one of these things for Steve. Steve used it, loved it, went to the Ampex salesman and said, look at this. And Steve sold Ampex on buying this product.
Eventide basically in the beginning was you, Steve, and Orville.
Me, Steve.
Yeah,
and
you.
Yeah.
You, not me. I said you. You said me.
No. Yeah.
No, you.
Me,
Richard, Steve, and Orville.
Me, Richard.
Who's on first?
Steve Katz.
Right.
Orville Green.
Who's on bass?
We founded the company. Our first real product that we made in volume was the tape search unit, the Ampex tape search unit.
That's incredible.
With the money, we started doing other stuff. We made mock-ups of all sorts of things, brought them to an AES convention. A couple of them, people said, oh, yeah, I might buy that if it actually had parts in it, stuff like that. And so that's how it all got started.
What was an AES convention like in 1969?
Well, they used to have them at the Waldorf They used to have them.
They were classier.
Well, nobody could get to them.
Okay.
Because they were all Waldorf. But if they weren't,
Okay.
Stick with inventions.
No.
If
I would
they
go
were-
vaudeville. I think that's the next phase.
if they weren't, people would come around. It's sort of like they are now, only a little bigger. They vary, John. They vary in size.
Right.
I remember they were actually pretty decent, pretty crowded.
Right.
Then there were, there are good spots and bad spots. It's an industry that varies with time.
Right.
So you took the money, started investing in...
Yeah. Steve and I would come up with notions for something people could use, because I was in radio and he was in recording. We had a pretty good idea of potentially useful pieces of equipment, and that's where the phaser and the flanger. Well, not the flanger yet. The phaser.
And the phaser was first?
The phaser was first. The flanger was later, and the Omnipressor came from.
Are you Eventide at this point?
You mean the name?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we dropped the Clockworks.
Right. But you were Eventide
Boing.
Clockworks.
And where did Eventide come from, the name?
Eventide is an actual word, sort of Old Englishy, meaning evening. And Clockworks is just that, place that makes clocks. Back when I was working for WABC, you'll recall my job didn't sound terribly challenging. You put a cartridge in a machine, and then when somebody points at you, you press a button. That leaves you a lot of time for mischief. And so a couple of friends and I got together and said, wouldn't it be nice if we had beautiful digital clocks? And you could get all the parts down on Cortlandt Street or Canal Street. Bag of diodes, 99 cents. My job was building the electronics. Somebody else's job was building the case. Somebody else's job, actually, maybe it was just both of our jobs, and then they would exist. Everybody chipped in a couple of $100 for the parts. And I would sit there on the night shift, working with Charlie Greer, and put together these clocks. And they were actually kind of pretty, except they used incandescent lamps and aluminum heatsink blocks, and the lamps were of variable brightness, so they didn't last all that long. But they worked, and I was thinking to myself, if I had a company making these clocks, it would be Eventide, evening, nighttime, Clockworks. So Steve and Orville and I are standing in the vestibule. I actually remember this like I was still there. In the vestibule at Eventide, Sound Exchange at the time, because Eventide didn't exist, saying, well, if we're going to have a company, it needs a name. And I'm a science fiction fan. I came up with a whole list of names, things with spin dizzy in them, stuff like that. These guys who maybe just a little bit more stodgy than I was at the time looked at, oh, that's a stupid name. Oh, that's a stupid name. Boy, that's a really stupid name. Oh, look at that stupid name. On and on down the list. I think Orville may have came up with, well, why don't we use our initials? And I'm thinking, stodge. I don't want to do that.
Ham.
And finally, in desperation, I said, why don't we call it Eventide Clockworks? Oh, all right. And we're Eventide Clockworks.
So you beat him down. That's actually a great name.
I guess I did. That was, well, it's. I always liked it.
Yeah. Why did you guys drop the Clockworks?
I hear the sound, spring. I think the very first thing that I made was a delay line. It's not exactly... a
digital delay.
Oh, no, digital. Yeah. Absolutely digital.
But it wasn't the 1745, right?
No. I'm talking about prehistory here. I made a couple of things just as an experiment. This is because I liked audio stuff. And the company that I was working for, remember I was working in a defense plant with access to all sorts of integrated circuits, and they had shift registers for the real-time spectrum analyzers. And these shift registers had 256 bits. Not kilobits, not kilobytes, not mega, not giga, not tera, just bits. And they had 4 sections each. And ICs were very unreliable in those days. You could easily count on, if you had a handful of them, 1 or 2 would be totally defective, 1 or 2 would die quickly. And these particular shift registers, again, not terribly reliable, had 4 sections. Well, we couldn't use them if one of the sections was bad. So I ended up, I said to the technicians repairing these things, hey, if you have any bad shift registers, give them to me. And I would test them and find which sections were bad. And I built, using 256-bit shift registers, an audio delay line. The A to D technology at the time was pretty primitive, but actually it sounded really good. It was a monotonic converter. And the same thing with D to A converters. We use them at work, but if they had a bad bit or they weren't quite as good as they should have been, they'd give them to me.
What was the thought? What was the purpose of the delay line going to be?
What, you had to have a purpose?
There we go.
Where'd you come from?
There we
The
go.
Bronx.
The Bronx.
That explains everything.
So, but wait, now you're saying A to D, D to A. Explain how A to D and D to A is going on.
Well,
in
if you're going to have a
1969.
digital delay line with analog signals, you have to convert the analog to digital. You put it into the shift registers, you convert it back to analog again, and then you could hear the signal only, in this case, I think it turned out to be 1 or 2 milliseconds later. And you could see it on an oscilloscope, or you could create a sort of a fixed phasing effect. And as the chips got better and cheaper, of course, you could make them longer and longer and longer. And a few years after making this little experimental prototype at home, the chips became cheap enough and reliable enough, or almost reliable enough, to make a commercial product out of it.
When did you realize that it had a musical application?
Pretty much right away, I would say. I think Steve. Now this is when
he had a recording studio.
Steve was still with us
Right.
with the recording studio. He would play around with this stuff, and he was recording McKendree Spring at the time.
A dust and grime, so what's those pennies and the dollars taking care of themselves? Well, 5 will get you 10, and the land of plenty is on the way. And if you need a friend and your friends are gone, cash
They may have been
yeah,
one
sure.
of the first bands to use
Wow.
any of our stuff. It became obvious that delay lines had a lot of functions in recording. And as time went on, the first delay we built was the 1745, and then the 1745A, which used actually pretty reliable shift registers as opposed to the 1745. They would keep, let's just say their infant mortality lasted into middle age.
So was this, I mean, obviously, prior to this, people were using tape delays,
Yeah.
right?
Or garden hoses. You remember the Cooper Time Cube?
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know.
I remember it.
Yeah. There was actually a delay line where you had a garden hose in a box with a microphone at one end and a speaker at the other end, and that was a delay line, and it worked. It wasn't as terrible as you might think. Almost.
But
not quite.
were you attempting to just replace that with something easier to use, more controllable?
I don't know that was the motive. I think the motive was to make these things and sell them. And they had switches, so you could easily adjust the delay. It's a little hard to do that with a garden hose.
Yeah.
Not impossible. I guess you could fill it with helium. I never thought of that.
Wow. It's just funny. You fill anything with helium and it's better.
Yeah.
So,
Or radon.
So the initial delay limit on a 1745 is
200 milliseconds.
there you go.
Although you could get one a little cheaper by having it half populated and going up to 100 milliseconds.
Right.
That's for people who weren't record plant.
Right.
Our first customer was the Maryland Broadcasting,
Right.
Maryland Public Broadcasting, and they insisted they wanted a blue front panel. I was all for that.
Nice.
Favorite color.
So someone was making the boxes for you,
Ed Rico.
Ed Rico. Someone specifically Ed Rico. Okay.
Ed Rico. And they'd usually come out pretty good, and eventually we'd receive them.
And you would
Sheet metal has been the bane of our existence
Amazing.
for our
I bet.
entire forever.
Amazing.
Forever. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
and you were putting the guts together.
yeah.
I remember hand delivering a 1745M to Electric Lady,
Yeah.
like in a box, and I was just
Really?
so pumped. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what, 18, 17?
Wow.
Electric Lady needs this right now. Go right down. Bring it. It was carried on the train.
Did you take cash for it?
I did not. They dealt with that. I was
You
just like,
didn't?
no.
That's
He
what
still has it in
happened.
his pocket.
Yeah.
So I got that $200. So, what would have? Speaking of,
Yeah.
what were we selling this stuff for back then?
What was it, about $4,000?
No.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, antihistamine money, to be sure.
Holy
200
cow.
milliseconds, $4,000.
That's great.
Back when $4,000 was worth almost $4,000.
And where were you? You were on 54th
We were
Street?
on 54th Street with the rats and the fluorescein
But
dye.
you were there from the get-go, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't Sound
that's-
Exchange was there the whole
That's
time?
right. Sound Exchange was on the top floor. The pool table was on the main floor.
Yeah.
And
The Reagan
Eventide was
machine?
in the basement. And and the Reagan machine was on the main floor too.
Yeah.
What's a Reagan machine?
What's the Reagan machine?
That's right.
Oh, you beat me to it. Talk
Go ahead.
faster.
I'm a year straight man.
Yeah, the Reagan machine was a device, sort of a very primitive pick-and-place machine for components, which used a human being to do the picking and placing. But what it would do is it would aim a beam of light and an arrow, a polarized arrow at a printed circuit board, and a tray would come up. It had, I think, 75 trays in it with resistors and capacitors. Who put the Roach in that? And just to be
I
clear,
did a lot of stuff, but
when
I
I
did
say
that.
roach, I'm talking a
Not an
cockroach,
insect.
not an
okay.
insect roach.
Right.
And this poor woman, Jean, who worked on it, kind of got a little bit upset when the Roach came up. But this is a long time ago. I think statute of limitations has
Right.
passed
There we
along
go.
with the Roach, and most likely Jean, given her age. And the part would come up. She'd pick the part out of the tray and put it on the board where the light beam was.
I remember sitting there on weekends putting together flanger boards for flangers with that. And it was literally like you just stick it in, and that was it.
And you were eventually replaced by a pick-and-place machine.
Yeah, thank God.
Wow. So that's 1975.
Around there, yeah.
And business took off. Now you're established, and are you in every studio? Like right now, you
Well,
walk
let
into
me
any
just count. I see 1, 2,
Yeah.
3.
I think it did take off.
Yeah, I think you're okay. I think you guys have legs. I think this company has a future.
Yeah, well, we certainly have a past, that's
Yeah,
for
yeah.
sure. But
Hello.
I see, what are these, Hammond B3s, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got 2 Hammond B3s, a bunch of LA2As. These haven't been made for a long time.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Who knows? Who knows? They have a future, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, well, we've continued doing what we started out doing with minor improvements.
But,
And a lot of
but
other
you do
stuff as
audio
well.
and other stuff.
We do audio and other stuff.
Right.
One of the things we wanted to do was reverb, and Tony was a math guru in those days. And we got these HP computers. I got my first computer, by the way, in 1969.
Wow.
It was a Hewlett-Packard desktop. Spent my life savings on it. I mean, literally. It had 512 bytes
Nice.
of memory, 500 of which were usable.
Yes.
It had 3 registers. It had a magnetic card reader that would hold a program that was probably as many as 50 steps long.
What did it look like?
It looked sort of like a laptop without a screen and without a keyboard. I mean, it had a keyboard, but it was mostly mathematical functions.
But there was no screen.
It had 3 registers, 3 numbers, X, Y, and Z register, and a few LEDs showing whether this function, whether it was in radians or degrees.
What was your thinking in buying it? You just wanted it, or
I wanted one.
I wanted one.
I wanted my own computer. I dreamed of having my
amazing.
own computer.
Had you ever considered getting into the computer business?
Well, we were. We made accessories. One of the wonderful things, and to this day, despite Hewlett-Packard's degradation into a consumer company at this point, back in those days, they made test equipment, which I love. One of my hobbies is getting used test equipment
I've
from
noticed
eBay.
a few of those.
And they made these computers, which we bought. And as I started saying earlier, Tony was doing this reverb research. Having a computer is a helpful thing to do because reverb is a very mathematically intensive process. But meanwhile, while he's doing that with the computers, I'm looking at them and thinking, you know, they're charging $5,000 for this memory board. I can build it for $500
And then sell it for $3,000.
and sell it for half of what HP charges.
Right.
And for a decade, 2 decades, let me see, when we started doing that in the 70s and pretty much wound up doing it in the late 90s, a good portion of our business, and a very successful portion of our business, was making accessory memory boards for other companies' computers. We did it for the Commodore PET, where we would make a 16, 24, and 32K memory board.
Did HP get bugged out by it?
I think they got a little irritated, but only a little, because they're this enormous
still
company.
selling
They,
the computers,
they
right.
sell 100,000 of these things.
Right.
We've managed to track down 10% of their customers and manage to sell to 5% of their customers. How exercised are they going to get over that? Not very. Meanwhile, 5% of their customers are 5,000 computers.
Yeah, right.
I'm just making up these numbers, of course. And each one of these people is sending us thousands of dollars for memory boards instead of sending Hewlett-Packard more.
Yeah, 500% of that, yeah.
Exactly. So
It's a win-win.
yeah, it was a fabulous business. And it was only when when the personal computer came out and they couldn't get away with charging such outrageous margins that we had to give that up because then they were competitive.
Right.
Or
Is that
we were
when
less
Apple started
competitive.
becoming popular?
No, Apple started becoming popular in the 70s, the Apple II.
Right.
And we made accessories for that too. We made the Spectrum analyzer that plugged into the Apple.
Yeah.
That was another pioneering thing. I don't think anyone had ever built an instrument that goes into a general purpose computer before then. And I think
it was a Spectrum
we pioneered
analyzer.
that. Yeah, Spectrum analyzer. We built it for the Commodore PET, Apple, and the Radio Shack.
Wow. This was, so what year is this?
Mid-70s, mid to late 70s.
So this is all while you're doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, these were my little projects.
Right.
Right. And that was just like you said, like the Heen and the Hern and all the other stuff. Basically, you sat there and you decided this would be really cool to have. We're going to build.
Yeah. That's actually my history. It's getting harder too because everybody's got everything now. I mean, I've got a smartphone. How do you beat that? I'm not sure.
So
75, David Bowie starts using your stuff, and
well, Todd Rundgren is using the shit, right? Yes.
Oh, Todd's a wonderful story. Wait a minute. Todd actually did a photo session with us back. I'm thinking in the early 70s, and I have a whole stack of photos of Todd holding Eventide
So when
equipment.
I started working for you, you hired me in 1976, right, or something like that, over the summer. Then I would work,
Things were so good until then too.
I know. Well, you kind of could have fired me numerous times, but you chose not to. So he'd have all these people come play shows in town. They'd come up to visit in the office, and then someone would call down for me and say, "John, come upstairs," and it would be like Todd Rundgren or John Anderson or people that I was so into as a kid, and I would just be like,
Grand Funk Railroad.
Seriously,
Mark
though,
Farner.
yeah. I mean, it was incredible
because they were coming to test you were giving them demonstrations.
I think they were also just you would.
Yeah, I would do demos, or they'd bring something in to be modified or repaired.
Or who was like really the first guy where you got Eventide was like, this is awesome. Like, here's a guy. This is like high profile.
It would have to be the very first AES we went to in California, which I guess would have been around 70. A guy came around and said, I work with Jefferson Airplane. And I'm not unduly starstruck.
Right.
But that kind of did it. And, I didn't exactly follow him around the show like a puppy, but I said, if there's anything we can ever do for you.
Right.
You mean he was an engineer for them?
He was their sound guy, their roadie. But I think he was their mixer.
His name is
Jim Coe.
Gotcha.
They started using it live or in the studio?
So I would do whatever I could to get them to use it. And I finally, they did a live concert in the park. And I brought them the 1745 delay line. I met Grace Slick. I have this big picture of me with Grace Slick. We were standing in the picture together. It's not like she was looking at me worshipfully, although a number of years later, I made her a tomato and lettuce sandwich.
Nice.
I did that.
And
she said, thank you.
Was the delay line used for the speakers, or was it used as, an effect?
I really don't remember all that much. I just remember standing on stage with Jefferson Airplane in Central Park. That's all I needed, really.
Right. Amazing.
Eventide stuff, screw it.
Right. So they were the first. But I just remember, like, Todd being super, like, all over Eventide gear. Like,
yeah.
He was also, was the True Star guy. He was always the studio, in the beginning, he was totally the studio.
Yeah.
The wizard.
Yeah, and Roger Powell,
right.
who was in the band, yeah.
Oh, right, he was in
Utopia. They did a
Yeah.
Central Park concert, I think.
Right.
And did the stuff kind of just sell itself through word of mouth, or did you have to go out and, like, really try to promote, or did it just happen that people started using it? And
Well, we had for a while this marketing person, Joni. She helped. I'm not much of a salesperson.
right.
I don't know how it sold.
But it sounds like
we ran ads. I remember.
You did run ads.
I took a picture. Remember DB Magazine?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One ad that I ran. Literally, I had a posed photograph of the delay line. I took some Letraset and just I put the price on the photo and maybe our name and address, and I sent it into Larry Zide at DB Magazine, and it was an ad. None of that sophistication.
Right.
Kenny did some advertising. Kenny Schaefer again. My friend Joe Shapiro was our advertising agency for a number of years. So we didn't really have a. Did we have a salesperson? I can't remember. No, we didn't have a salesperson. We ran magazine ads because there was no internet.
Right.
There's no point running radio ads because it's too broad based. So we just ran ads in magazines, kept our fingers crossed, and built stuff.
And went to AES.
And went to AES.
And you showed your stuff there. And
Yeah.
But also everything was so new and so, you know what I mean? Like the H910 was super new.
Yeah.
And even like the Eventide flanger. I mean, you couldn't really.
Well,
You
very
couldn't do
much
that
like
shit.
the H9.
Yeah.
New in concept and
Yeah. High level, and one person has one, and then everybody sees it, and
Right.
everybody wants one.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Eventide stuff is still in every studio.
Every studio
Every studio.
Every
Let's
damn
make
studio.
every
And not just in the United States.
world.
in the world.
Everywhere I go. No, I'm serious.
God, that stuff is so good.
It's good. It lasts.
It's the best.
Oh, absolutely.
No, it is. I mean, every mix I run something through something, and it's
Of
called
course.
Eventide.
That's right.
Let's go
Milky
a
Way.
little bit forward because we were talking about the first.
Yeah, I'm
Eventide.
retrogressing here.
The first Eventide, we were talking about the phaser, and then you had mentioned the Omnipressor,
Yeah.
which also was pretty huge.
The Omnipressor started out with a suggestion from a guy named Mark Weiss. Mark Weiss, whose name you will probably not remember, was affiliated with Richard Nixon in the sense that Richard Nixon created a tape with the 18-minute gap, and Mark Weiss was on the committee to try to figure out what was going on with that 18-minute gap.
Wow.
You mean to like do forensic
Do
of
exactly.
the tape itself? And
Exactly. He had
see
the
if he
tape.
could extract
He and
something?
his committee were trying to figure that out. And this is an old colleague of mine. I worked with him when I was working in a defense plant. Very, very smart guy, real expert in speech science. And we were just babbling about something or other. And he used the term a homomorphic filter. And at the time, we were having a technical discussion. At the moment, I can't really reproduce it in my alleged mind. But it occurred to me that making a compressor with a side chain, which is all the rage now, because back in the day, a compressor had feedback and tried to limit or compress or whatever. But if you could keep the side chain separate and measure the level of the signal separately from the compressed signal, you could do interesting things. And I don't know, it might have even been a vision, but just from this discussion, I said, you could, just by taking this side chain signal and amplifying it, going from a gain of, let's say, 1 through a gain of -1, using the proper kind of operational amplifier, you could create anything from a gate to a infinite compression to reverse compression.
Which would be expanding?
No, reverse compression, a soft signal would become loud, and a loud signal would become soft. In other words, you could reverse the attack and decay, say, of a drum kit, which is where it turned out to work really well. And using a couple of DBX modules for gain control and level measurement, because Dave Blackmer had just come out with these things, and we were using them in other products.
You
Or actually, at the time, we
DBX?
weren't using them in other products. We were just about to. Take a level detector module, connect it to an amplifier in the right way, so you can adjust the gain from, again, -1 to +1, conceptually anyway, and apply that to a gain module, and suddenly, with the correct circuitry, you've got this thing that can reverse dynamics.
But you had a musical idea for how it would apply? Like, besides the fact that it
I
could
think
do
you're
this,
being awfully generous to me. I don't usually get musical ideas. I usually get technical ideas,
Right.
and they turn out to be musical. I just thought, boy, this would really sound interesting.
Right.
And I was right. It
Right.
sounded really, really interesting.
Right.
And then later on, you would remember the distinction between the Whiteface and the Blackface.
Yeah.
The problem with the first Omnipressor, the one that I designed, is it was not only really difficult to use, it was almost incomprehensible. You just had to have some facility with the knobs and whatever. Then a friend of mine named John Paul came on board, joined the company, and he turned it into a defined product where the knobs were actually calibrated and you could adjust exactly what you wanted to do. That was the Blackface Omnipressor. And that actually sold pretty well, and we eventually discontinued it, which was a big mistake.
Why did you discontinue?
Because we moved and it wasn't selling all that well at the time. We couldn't get the meters anymore. Any number of reasons. It was just a commercial decision.
So from 74...
Okay, well, 74 was pitch change. The pitch change module for the 1745 delay line, and shortly thereafter, Tony designed the H910 Harmonizer, a product which is in the Hall of Fame, the Tech Hall of Fame.
Which wasn't named after the Beatles song One After 909,
I thought
apparently.
Tony said that.
I don't know. He changes his mind every
Yeah.
Move over once, move over twice. Come on, baby, don't be go the dice. Said you're driving on the one after 909.
Well, it's his product. He named it.
It's his product,
So he's
and he named it.
absolutely entitled, just like I can say the broadcast delay, the BD955.
Yeah.
Could have been named after the broadcast delay. Could have been named after my buddy Bob Deitch.
That was Tony's baby.
The
H910.
H910 was Tony's baby. And we started making those things. And I remember I had a vibration table in my office. And every single one of those that we built went through my paws.
What's a vibration table?
And that's a device that shakes the unit, make sure there aren't any loose solder connections, and that it continues
so you
working.
shake it, and then you test it, and if it's working...
So it's actually a table that moves?
ask
Yeah.
him.
So you turn it on, you shake it,
You
and
turn
see
it
what
on,
happens.
you shake it, you turn it around a little bit,
Right.
you adjust the controls, and
You
just
did every one of them.
for quite some time. And there were thousands. That's one of my main jobs. I didn't want anything to get out of there
Right.
that wasn't good. And people just loved this thing. It was the first real affordable pitch change product.
Right.
The delay line did pitch change,
Right.
but it was ridiculously expensive
Right.
and whatever. So can I get a plug in here for Brosious?
Brosious.
You remember
Yeah,
Ham?
he was
You
with,
know Ham,
He
right?
was with Martin Audio?
No, he was with Audio Techniques.
Yes, Audio Techniques.
Scully,
yeah, he was a
sold
famous...
Scully. Ham, he was sort of our guru at the beginning. He would come around and talk to me and talk to Orville. And
By the way, he said, "Can I get a plug in here?"
Yeah, exactly. That's where it came from.
that's
Plug in?
right, yeah. I must have invented that. Where's Tony?
I think you guys did come up with plugins.
He did.
Yes.
He did. They were literal plugins.
Right.
Plugins. The product that he designed
Right.
used EPROMs,
Right. Amazing.
and you plug them in,
Plug
and you
in.
get a new program. But Ham was our guru at the very beginning because what did I know about the audio business? I'm barely out of college, building electronic stuff, which is what I did know. But you have to send someone an invoice once you've shipped something. Don't they pay you?
So you didn't go to business school.
Yeah.
You learned on the fly.
Yeah, yeah. So Ham gave us, he said, look, this is how you price something.
Was there a moment that the 910 that you went, "Oh shit, this is gonna fly"?
Yes.
And what can you tell
That
us?
moment occurred when Tony was downstairs doing whatever it was. I don't remember. Maybe he was just testing it or he was adjusting something. And Heather, do you know Heather? Heather Wood?
Heather Wood. She's
Heather
the
Wood.
best.
Heather walked in while Tony was working on it. I don't think she had actually seen it in all of its glory because she didn't work in the basement. She actually worked upstairs. And she looked at that and she listened to it and she watched it on the oscilloscope and she said, "We're going to make a lot of money on this." That's what she said. This is a quote, "a lot of money."
Right.
And she said it very posh. That's
Right.
what she does,
Right.
British girl.
And you went, "Oh."
And I was content to hear that.
Yeah.
Not that I had any doubt about it, because
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
obviously going to be a great product.
Right.
But that was the moment that it all came home.
Right.
Didn't hurt when Tony Visconti used it on every record he made and
Right. They became
was
hit
saying that
records.
it was changing the fabric of time. And,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Those were the days.
And then, but it's an international product. At least, like every studio in the world probably has.
The H910, when it came out, did not have any significant competition.
Yeah.
Nobody else made a pitch changer that you could buy and put in your studio for what seemed like a more or less reasonable amount of money that sounded pretty good.
Right.
Not great, because it still had the glitch, although people liked the
Right.
glitch.
People like the glitch.
That was 75. That was that product.
And was it the 949 stopped? Was that the next one?
Next one was 949.
And did you not issue the 910s anymore?
No, we kept making
Yeah.
the 910s. Even when we moved to New Jersey, we were still building them as long as we could,
Right. Meaning as long as you can get parts?
as long as we could get parts. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It got harder, but we came out with a succession of units. We came out with the 949, which
Right.
was also Tony's design,
Right.
and that had the deglitch card in it with 2, and here's that word, algorithms, which we think we may have invented also for
Wow,
audio.
really?
Yeah.
You can call me Al. Algorithm.
You can call me Al.
That's pretty great.
Paul Simon almost used 1745 in one of his movies.
Really?
Yeah, they
the One
called
Trick
us.
Pony?
They called us up. I'm not sure. I didn't have anything to do with this. Heather was involved in it. They called up and said we'd like to borrow one for the movie for whatever reason. And like a lot of times, it just ended up on the cutting room floor.
Right.
Back in the days when they had cutting rooms.
Yeah. Yep.
And then what was after the 949?
The next one was the 969. Jeff Sassmore, you remember Jeff? He
Hard to
designed
forget.
it. And it was supposed to be the next step up over the 949. It was much prettier. Had a couple of different color LED displays. It did delay. It did pitch change. It had a clever little design for micro pitch change. It was a pretty neat unit. And you probably never knew Joe Shapiro either.
No.
You knew him,
I
right?
knew Joe Shapiro,
Yeah,
yes.
you knew him. He was my old college roommate and our advertising guru.
Right.
And one of the cleverest people with language on the face of the planet. Sadly, no longer with us. He also had notions about pricing. And when the 969 came out, which was certainly prettier, had more features, but not necessarily a big improvement over the 949, we couldn't replace the 949 because everybody loved it. We were selling them well. And the 969 cost about the same to build as the 949. And so we didn't quite know how to handle it. So Joe said, well, why don't you just raise the price by an extra $1,000? That way, people who want the premium unit will pay the extra money.
Right.
And it never sold enormously well like the other products, but it did a good accounting for itself.
So the
All right, so
969, which had all those buttons.
which had all the buttons and all the features and more variable delay. I think it had more delay because memory keeps getting cheaper every year.
Right.
Oh yeah, I was talking about software. The deglitch board in the H949 had software. Tony had these tiny little, basically they're very small memory chips that are very fast, and they did the arithmetic for the deglitching. The 969 was just more digital. I don't think it had any real programmed stuff in it. No EPROMs or whatever. Although I could be wrong. I don't remember because, again, I didn't pay that much attention to that particular design. That was in process as we were moving to New Jersey. And we were selling the Omnipressor then, the instant flanger, the broadcast delay. Then we moved to New Jersey.
Thank you, Richard.
My pleasure,
Richard.
gentlemen.
Yay.
It's good to be here.
My first
good to be
boss.
on your podcast.
Ow. My first boss.
You mean he owes you money?
For more from Richard about his personal history, ham radio, and more Eventide, check out episodes 6 and 7. And for an interstellar trip on his journey with the SETI League, listen to episode 78, available at gearclubpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. For links, playlists, and extras for this and all our episodes, go to gearclubpodcast.com and be sure to sign up for our mailing list for the latest news and interviews. Follow us on social media at Gear Club Podcast and head over to our YouTube channel at Gear Club Podcast for video versions of all our episodes and more.
Thanks for listening. Gear Club is produced by James Frazee and the inexplicably enigmatic Jacques Fries. Our video wizard is Emily Sassmore. Matt Ely is our production and marketing czar. Luna Navarro is our social media maven. Gear Club is hosted by Stuart Lerman and John Agnello, and sometimes James. Big thanks to this episode's guests, our musical director Mel F. Lewis, our legal counsel, the firm of Dewey, Cheatham & Howe, our house band, the Silver Merkins, and our sponsor, Eventide.
What, are you guys doing a podcast?
Come on.